haven't done this in a long time. Woo! I'm about to make a name for myself. Okay. Hey, people of the internet, welcome back to the Jim Bob YouTube channel. And tonight, well, last night, or the day before last night, I watched Alien Romulus, my most anticipated movie of the year. And what can I say about it? It's an extremely good movie. It had only one job only, to make an extremely well done horror flick that's set in space, and that is extremely thrilling and, provides a, worthy entry to the Alien franchise. And and also, I have some notes that I just, wrote. Notes as in an entire script, so yeah. And this video is also going to be divided into two parts. A non-spoiler part and a spoiler section. So let's first start with a non-spoiler review of this movie. The pros, the cinematography is, it's the best looking Alien movie in the franchise. Everything from the production design and the practical effects, the lighting, it's all beautiful. Then the sound design is wonderful. The screeching of the xenomorph, the blaring of the sirens, and every thud when you hear a spaceship basically collide with something outside in space. It's extremely well done how they capture the sound of it. And then the characters are well established. I think even with the little time we get to spend with them, them bantering, I like their banter. I think they're instantly likable. Their relationship is well established. I think you somewhat know these people. Somewhat it's somewhat akin to what Ridley Scott did with the Nostromo crew. Where you can somewhat know them instantly in the first 15 minutes. Andy the android is probably the best android in the whole franchise. More on that later in the spoiler section. And the set pieces are intense, extremely intense. The practical effects, again, I said before, are effective, with CGI complementing them extremely well. What's next? And when it comes to the gore, it's it's not as gory as from what Fede Alvarez used to do, but it is somewhere in that direction. It's a bit toned down from Evil Dead, Fede Alvarez, most gory movie. But at the same time, in the Alien franchise, you kind of just have to, somewhat have a restrained approach when it comes to gore. Like the chestburster scene will definitely not have the same effect if the alien just, starts, fucking hacking off people's limbs and just having extremely brutal kills. Because, for example, in the first Alien movie, when someone, Dallas gets killed, it's somewhat, up to the interpretation of the viewer of just how gory that, might have transpired. And then, we get the final act. The final act will probably get some prequel heads, people who are big fans of, Prometheus and Covenant, or at least just Prometheus. I think they're gonna be a bit joyed up when it comes to the ending of this movie, but it works well enough. Then the chest burster scene again, and it hits extremely hard. It actually has a chaotic element embedded within it. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. The visual effects again are great. There was one use of CGI where I thought okay, that looked a bit weird. Something akin to Alien Isolation's facial model, because the film is so good looking that little smudges like that just sticks out. It sticks out. The fan service sometimes hits hard, but other times, it kind of somewhat falls flat. And then the production design, I said before, keeping the retro futuristic design from of Ron Cobb, mixing that with the H.R. Giger's design of the alien xenomorph. The xenomorph has it looks like as if it doesn't belong in that area, which intensifies its scary nature. The cast from Katie Spaney really bring it their all. I think they're all top notch. Each scream, each basically each of their lines are delivered well, and especially their desperate desperate turn throughout the movie is extremely, well, horrifying, I guess. I like the beginning of this movie, the showcasing of how it is like in a Weyland-Yutani colony. The movie's first part of its second act is powerful. I think everybody can stand by the fact that it's an extremely hooking aspect of the movie. The pacing is also especially smooth when it comes to, like, you know, just quieting down, you know, after or before a big action set piece. You know, just seeing how the characters are currently doing or feeling in that moment. I think that just, you know, somewhat smoothens the pavement of the movie. I also love that the characters are extremely smart. You know, in this movie, like, you know, and the somewhat considered dumb actions committed by the characters are justified because, well, they were basically under heavy, well, bricks of stress. So, yeah. But when it comes to the pros of this movie, I think that's it without, you know, going into spoiler territory. As I would have liked to say, this movie is 10 out of 10 movie, like best alien movie of all time. That just isn't the case. So let's go on with the cons. A few nitpicks here and there, like I wish Mother had a more urgent, you know, feel. Like, for example, something akin to the Nostromo's self-destruct sequence, you know, like when you hear the Mother say the ship will probably explode, or the ship will probably impact with a planet in T-654 minutes, and while the protagonist is getting chased by some kind of alien monstrosity. And I also wish the sirens were, you know, more intense as it blares in the, you know, in the second act. Again, that Nostromo self-destruct sequence, like basically, I basically listened to that as if it's a Pink Floyd album. What else did I like about this movie? Oh yeah, the jump scares. The jump scares did not land for me. Though, at the same time, I'm also not a jumpy human being, so that's probably the case. And the fan service, though I said before, some I liked. For example, how they proceeded with the opening credits, just like, you know, mia, mwah. And also just, you know, how in the opening scene of the movie, the computers had that chunky noise when it booted up. Like that, as an Alien fan, come on. But when it comes to the cons of the fan service in this movie, let's just say there's one that I thought could have been altered. I guess without going into spoilers, there's a character in here that returns whom I wish could have been replaced by another established character. More on that later in the spoiler part. And also there are some lines that were repeated from, you know, Alien and Aliens that I thought, like, you know, yeah, did they really need to add that line? But there was one line that actually got me. I think I had an extreme high of member berries from it, I guess. Or no, I thought it was used effectively. But again, I'm gonna clarify my point more on the spoiler section. And also, there's a scene in this movie where I thought, yeah, okay, that was horseshit. There's no way, like, you know, that would have happened. But let's get on with the spoiler part of this review. Word of warning, if you haven't seen Alien Romulus, we're about to get into spoiler territory. So yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, well, tough fucking ball sacks, because I'm going to spoil it in T-.
The ship will detonate in T-minus 10 minutes. The option to override automatic detonation expires in T-minus 5 minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Spoiler territory. The deaths are justified. I think the characters, when they die in pretty realistic ways. Like, for example, Bjorn's death, played by Spike Fern. I found it impulsive yet smart that he takes that, you know, stun button thing with, you know, with the electricity at the edge of it, and harms the Xenos cocoon where it was, you know, growing into a complete adult. And it's actually extremely fitting that the character would do that, like, you know, seeing how he is and this, like, you know, how his personality really is, and, you know, what happened to his, well, girlfriend Navarro. And also with the fact that he's also a teenager, which makes him impulsively violent. And also, even before he does that, like, you know, he recognizes that it might be dangerous and pulls Isabella's Merced's character, wait, I'm forgetting her name, Kay, out of the way, and just, you know, because, well, he thought it might be dangerous, and then the poor bastard gets well, stunned by the xenomorph's tail, and then the xenomorph's, well, iconic acid blood starts showering on him. And that scene was like, wow, it's probably the best kill in the movie. And then with Navarro's death, you know, like, it's the chest burster scene, right? The chest burster scene. Usually when that happens, you know, everybody's just taking it in, reacting to it. But here, dude, like, they have a chaotic element. They added a chaotic element. So what happens is, basically, Navarro starts, you know, having a seizure while Merced's character Kay tries to comfort her, and then she, in that state, Navarro, accidentally kicks the steering stick, which then ends up diverting the ship into a crazy collision with the station. Seeing it in theaters, like, I felt that ship steer into that direction. It was extremely hypnotic. It had the same effect as the No Time for Caution scene in Interstellar. And I just have to give this film credit with just how it depicts space, you know. Space hasn't looked this good since Christopher Nolan did it in, well, I don't know, 2014, 2015. When was Interstellar released? Interstellar release date. Oh yeah, 2014, got it. Good job, mate. And then the crash, and then the collision then brutally injures Bjorn and Merced's character. Sorry, I'm trying to name... Oh yeah, Kay. But one nitpick about the scene is, why was there basically no damage to the ship? Like, just saying, I couldn't suspend my disbelief in that sequence, you know, when that ended in that way. In scenes where, you know, people nitpick, like in the zero gravity acid scene where people question, why is it acid blood just going through the walls? With that, I can really suspend my disbelief one way or another. Unlike, well, what happened at the end of that sequence. The sequence with the chest burster. At the same time, suspension of disbelief is something you really have to do with these movies. Like, for example, the two first Alien movie, like, it's extremely hard, or it's impossible to not suspend your disbelief. Like, for example, in the power plant scene in Aliens, where the colonial marines were advised to, well, not use their pulse rifles, and because of the big chance they might kill themselves if one of those ballistic rounds hit something integral or dangerously fragile that might cause the whole facility to blow up. And then when they get ambushed by the drones, the xenomorph drones, I turned that disbelief that they're not hitting something, anything dangerous that might blow up the power plant, into paranoia that they might actually do that by just shooting around and defending themselves against those xenomorph drones. Which I did the same thing to that zero gravity acid scene in, well, Romulus, and it actually made that sequence extremely powerful, or at least more powerful than it had any right to be. One thing I also find extremely notable was the dynamic between Rain and Andy. Rain, the protagonist, and Andy, her synthetic brother. I stated before that Andy is the best synthetic in the Alien franchise. When it comes to aliens or AI's morality in the Alien franchise, they usually fall into the good category or bad category. But with Andy, they play with the morally gray. It's not that Andy is a bad guy. Andy is a good guy, actually. In the beginning of this movie, like, Andy starts out as this sweet, cute, yet damaged android. Then as they needed to upgrade him to access the facehugger chamber, to let the two guys, Bjorn and Tyler, out of that hellhole. Basically, they had to put a chip or kind of disk drive on Andy from Rook, synthetic nearby, which alters his behavior. The imagery, which I need to commend, when he's, you know, Andy, when he was rebooting, while the two guys were fighting off the facehuggers, the camera work and the filter of the screen had a very demonic look to it, as if Weyland Yutani, the company, was possessing this little cute boy. Little boy, tiny boy, I need you, boy.
You gotta pay the troll toll if you want to get into that boy's hole.
Turning him into a morally corrupt, well, not entirely morally corrupt, though he saves the two men, he ends up also getting a new directive, or at least, you know, being more open to new directives. Like I don't know, specimen should not be harmed, save specimen from harm, crew expendable. But when Rain, nearly at the end of the movie, where everybody is basically, well, nearly dead, except for one, when she got that risky chance to get the cute and sweet childlike version of Andy back, she does. And considering who she has left when it comes to a close relationship or emotional connection with is Andy. And also like the metaphor for parenthood here, or like, you know, seeing your child grow into a more efficient and independent being. Yeah, I just find that dynamic extremely super interesting, you know. It was great. And before I get to the ending, because we're nearing it, we need to discuss this. That's a deep fake of Ian Holm, or at least has Ian Holm's likeness. Contemplating the movie last night, or at least last night, because when I was trying to record this video or edit it, I actually, you know, fucked it up by deleting some footage. I got to my thoughts on the fan service of this movie. And I was like, this was the one thing that in my opinion just fell flat when it comes to this film's approach to fan service. Like, it's unnecessary, and to add more salt to injury, like the CGI is awful, it sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm getting season 3 Livia Soprano flashbacks over here. This movie could have been a technical marvel if, you know, without the inclusion of Ash. Although it's not Ash, he has a different voice, he just looks like Ash, but you know, yeah, it is what it is. I wouldn't mind if he was somewhere in the background just laying lifeless, like, you know, just for the fans to point out, like, oh my god, look, it's Ash. But just like making him a big part of the movie, like, it's rough, because he's nothing but a big info dumpster. But that could have been just replaced with, I don't know, someone like Mother or, hell, Andy. And if they really wanted a crowd pleaser, like, they should have ignored the fact that Rock is also a Bishop model and Lance Hendrickson is still, well, alive. Scrap that Rock idea entirely and just reintroduce another model of David. I would definitely have loved to see more Fassbender in this franchise. And I just find it unnecessary, the cameo, and, you know, although, you know, trying to get his likeness, they did approach it in a very, well, respectful manner, because according to Fede Alvarez, to quite him, the whole thing started with me calling the estate and talking with his widow. She felt that Ian was given the cold shoulder by Hollywood in the last few years of his life, that he would have loved to be part of more projects after The Hobbit, but he wasn't. So she was thrilled about the idea of having him back. So I guess it's a extremely, well, it's a great approach when it comes to, you know, trying to get back, trying to put dead celebrities or old characters that were played by dead celebrities back in a well-established franchise. And to be honest, it wouldn't be that bad, you know, his inclusion if he actually did something. I don't know, probably fought with Rain when it comes to controlling the ship, or probably, or at least just have some kind of conflict with the character. I just cannot help but feel that there was actually a better alternative to that, and yeah, so yeah, it's basically how I feel about it. It's not that, you know, groundbreaking. You know, it did not break the movie for me, but, you know, it's just something where you kind of wish, yeah, I kind of wish that somewhat, you know, is changed or altered in some kind of manner. And those repeated lines originating from Alien and Aliens, it's like, okay, I get it. You want a crowd-pleasing line, or at least a crowd-pleasing moment where people go like, whoo, good job, filmmakers. The ones I catch were, I preferred the term artificial intelligence myself, or at least artificial person myself.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
Or, you know, the big one, the get away from her, you bitch line said by Andy after an extremely badass xenomorph kill. Excluding the act of badassery, like, dude, that line just made me question, like, don't these things have profanity filters? If he did say that, like, that makes him the first one when it comes to the timeline of the Alien franchise. Like, wouldn't that make him the first one to have said that line? Just saying. But not gonna lie, there was one crowd-pleasing line, or at least one fan-servicey line that actually gave me goosebumps. It was put very effectively. While a horde of xenomorph drones were hunting them, Ash says, or Rock, fuck's sake, says his iconic line from Alien. You know, the one that he said in this state. That actually gave me goosebumps. But you know, the other two just fell a bit flat, I'm afraid. But you know, that's all to be honest. So let's discuss the conclusion of this movie. What can I say? I liked it. So at the end of the movie, or in the middle of it, Ash, or which, goddammit, Rock, tells Rain and Tyler and Andy to transport this piece of cargo. Said cargo contains samples of the black goo. You know the black goo, yeah, the that desecrated that poor engineer in Prometheus. That then, you know, would create the certain things like, I don't know, humans. And Whale and Yutani were basically, you know, mucking about with it because they could make, or at least humans, basically the perfect organism, physically and mentally. A chance to regrow limbs, a chance for, well, immortality. So basically what Mr. Whalen was, you know, trying to do in Prometheus, or at least was trying to achieve. So after Merced's character, Kay, got painfully impaled by the xenomorph, and before Rain saves Andy, she asks her to get the cargo to the ship. She abides, but I guess due to the pain, or at least I guess she was probably, she thought she was probably not gonna make it. She injects the black goo into her system, and then she gets better. So after our three survivors, you know, regroup and escape the Renaissance Station, just right in time as it collides with a planet, we get a fake out happy ending. An extra fourth act. It's basically tradition when it comes to alien movies. Well, remember that black goo, you know, that member serum she injected into her system? Well, turns out it can also do something akin to what happened to the engineer in Prometheus. So Kay was basically pregnant, presumably with Bjorn's kid, and then starts having to, well, starts breaking her water, I guess. Her water broke. But instead of water coming out, it's blood. And thankfully, Romulus had a restraint approach when it comes to the gore, because due to that factor, this makes this scene just powerful. More powerful, I guess. Like, it was disgusting. If you have played Outlast 2 and witnessed what happens to, well, the protagonist's wife, yeah, it's somewhat akin to that. But instead of birthing a healthy, adorable baby, she gives birth to this 8-foot beast. It's basically what will probably get produced if an engineer from Prometheus and Covenant banged with SCP-096 without any prevention. So yeah, it tears Andy's neck, and Kay, the mother of this hideous monster, gets killed by her own creation, the fucking spoiled brat. Then a struggle commences with between Rain and that 8-foot beast. Rain manages to use the egg it came out of into good use, as well. She puts a hole in the ground and then blew the prick out in space. So yeah, the way, and also I'll have to just, you know, somewhat note the way they use sound, like when the acid went through the hull, revealing the cold silence of space. It's like, it's great, it's great. And then at last, the epilogue. We get a nice throwback from the first Alien movie. Rain records a cryologue as she puts him, Andy, and herself into cryosleep. And then, at last, they roll the credits. In conclusion, though I was hyped for this movie, I did keep my expectations moderately restrained. So I wasn't dissatisfied by the movie. It is what I wanted. A good and intense sci-fi horror movie that was thrilling, visually amazing, brings my love for the Alien franchise back. Alien Romulus was an event. This is what the Alien franchise somewhat needed to smoothen out its reputation after, well, two Rocky movies, commercially and critically. Though not original, it's like, you know, it's if aliens had a baby, it did, well, Fede Alvarez set out to do one thing and one thing only. Send a love letter to, well, the first two Alien movies. He did it effectively and efficiently, making a standalone yet non-episode like haunted house movie with xenomorphs. I'm optimistic about the future health of this franchise. Alien Earth, the TV show from FX, run by actually Noah Hawley, creator of, well, the Fargo TV show, will be coming out soon, and to be honest, I'm looking for. It's ran by one of the most brilliant minds currently working on television today, and I hope it brings justice to the continuity, or at least, you know, furthers the lore of the Alien franchise in a great manner. And yeah, that was a lot. I knew that was a lot. Thanks for watching and goodbye. This is going to be hell to edit.